What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first stream in like what, a year or something.
Crazy.
This is the first episode of Talking Dailies to celebrate my 8-year anniversary of doing daily renders. And today I'm joined here by my good friend Patrick4D. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know his work. The king, the absolute undisputed king of food renders.
Wow. Oh,
No, for
dude,
real,
thank you.
like
Thanks
for
for having
real,
me, man.
for real,
It's good to
like
be back. I feel like we grew up together. We literally grew up in the 3D space as like freelancers when there really wasn't anyone paving the way other than like the Beeples and the Hood Ass, which I know you like Beeple,
oh
but
yeah.
it's good to be back. It's like a full circle thing.
Yeah, dude, it's been such a long journey, honestly. Like, it didn't feel like 8 years for me either. Like, I don't know how long you've been doing daily renders for, but it almost felt to me we started around at the same time because you were probably one of the first people I followed. Like, you're not that far down from like the first people I followed.
Yeah, I think
Um,
2016 was the first daily I made, but I definitely didn't hold them as high as you hold them. Like I definitely miss days, like even if I'm not sick. So I think I went like a max of like 75 days or like 150 days maybe, like at the
that's pretty
beginning.
good.
And then I
That's
was like,
pretty
all right, if
good.
I miss it, whatever. But all right, 8 years, that's crazy.
Yeah, like, well, some of our followers know this, and I told you earlier as well. Technically, I did miss days because I don't necessarily always make the render on that day because I don't have a render laptop, for example. So I just, if I go on
Mm.
vacation, I have pre-produced like 2 weeks of daily renders essentially.
Oh, I see.
Um,
God, that's smart.
that's I'm still trying to get like a sponsor for for a laptop, but
Yeah.
yeah, let's see what we get. And dude, by the way, congratulations to you on 200K. Like that's big.
Dude, thank you. Appreciate that, man. I remember when I was in college and it was at the time I was like, once I hit 10K, I am.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, new follower. Look at
Yeah, let's go.
that.
That was really loud. Sorry about that. Wait, let me just see if I can.
I didn't actually hear
somehow.
anything.
Oh, you didn't hear anything? Okay, good.
I think I just get the stuff we're streaming through. But yeah, I remember 10K was like my milestone. I was like, once I get that, I'm gonna be like the big man on campus, and I'm gonna get all these like freelance contracts, and then it just keeps going. But yeah, appreciate that. 200K was I think it just opens slightly more doors and like a little bit more validity when you're streaming and you're at like certain events, and it's good to know, especially as a freelancer, that you have more eyes watching your content. And the more eyes that watch your content, the more I think I see that more jobs come in and all
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff.
that's great.
So
Yeah, yeah. No, I fully agree with that. I mean, I gotta say, I don't know if I would still do it if I didn't have the success that I have either. Like, I would probably do it in private, but not as consistently. Like, it's definitely something that pushes for real. So, like,
100%.
just talking a little bit about why you started daily renders. Like, I'm always curious as to other daily render artists why they started, because I have my reasons, but other people maybe have other reasons, and yeah.
Yeah. So I started daily renders. I was in film school, so the 3D world was just a foreign thing to me. So I really it was after my film classes. I went to SCAD here in Atlanta, and in between classes, I would hang out in the editing bays, and they had Cinema 4D just chilling on the computers. And now that I think back of like how early that was, I'm so thankful that that program was even installed on those computers. Because I think my one of my first inspos was like seeing Hood Ass and Beeple, kind of like you,
Oh, hood
and
ass,
I
dude.
just
Damn.
yeah,
That wakes up memories, man. Yeah.
the guy from I think he's from Prague, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
But I saw those and I was like, this is so cool. How is this stuff made? So at the time, I just really wanted to make just abstract things. Like if you would have told me I'd be making like photorealistic food later on, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like that stuff doesn't sound fun. I just want to make like blobs and have them look like realistic and glossy. And so I did that for like 2 years, pretty nonstop, with no uh, wantingness of getting like work or client work or anything like that. It was just, I thought it was fun. And it wasn't until like when I was starting to graduate college, again, I got into 3D second year of college out of 4 years, and then 2 years under my belt when I graduated, I was starting to get some freelance work, like not like the highest paying work, but it was like okay, a few $100 here, and then like every once in a while you get like a grand or 3 grand. And I was like, whoa. At that point, I was like doing some 3D work and also film work, and the 3D work I was doing, I was getting paid damn near more than the amount of money I was getting for film work for way less work. I was just sitting at my apartment making stuff that I thought was fun. So I'm like, and I was still using film principles. I was lighting subjects, composition. I was using all the camera uh, utilities and lights that I was using on the real set, except it wasn't heavy. There was no liability. There's no lights breaking on set. And so I kind of gave up film for the most part around 2020 to 2021. And then it was just full steam ahead. I was like, if I'm already doing this kind of stuff and making these kind of projects, balancing the film world, like I just, uh, if I give it up, let's see how far I can go. And then I realized the importance of like niching. So it went from just abstract work to just getting generalist work coming my way. And yeah, after that, I got into like sculpting and ZBrush because I saw I was making everything using like the volume builder and mesher in cinema, and so
Oh, you
everything
did
like
that in the
it
beginning?
looked good. Oh yeah, it was everything under the hood looked horrible. It was like a really simple piece of geometry, but under the hood it had like 2 million polygons, and I think at the time I had like a couple 1080 Ti's, so it was just so over the top for my system. And yeah, I did take a lot of risks at the beginning though. It was, I remember I think I had like $6,000 saved up from like film stuff and all this stuff outside of college, and I spent 4,000 of that on a new computer for rendering. So I was like, I hope this works. Like this was a risk I was willing to take, but I'm glad I did it because then that leaned into more things. And then once I got tired of blowing up my computer doing like the volume builder and mesher, that's when I was like, I gotta learn how to sculpt. I gotta learn ZBrush if I'm gonna be doing anything that's more dynamic than just like smashing primitives together. And then learn ZBrush. That turned into a bunch of character work, which is crazy and really botched. Which I have this like we can get later on or whatever. We can go over some of those things. We want to have this like
Yeah, yeah, for
PDF of just
sure.
like how the stuff progressed. And then after the crazy characters, we went into crazy cartoon foods like the Krabby Patty and all that. And after cartoon foods, and I made everything I could have remembered when I was a kid, then I went into just regular foods, like real foods. And I was like, let's see if there's a market for this. And I realized there really wasn't someone that took the throne of like food, like a freelancer that was like, oh yeah, this is the guy you got
Yeah.
to go to for food. And you know, it's been done before. It was been done by like agencies and all that stuff, but I didn't know anyone that was like the guy.
Yeah,
So
that's like a because like in the agencies usually people walk behind the scenes, like you never hear of them. Like it's just a no name. And you were the first guy that actually like you were the food guy or you are the food guy. Like,
100%. So
yeah.
it's I think it just came from running with a niche, and I mean that's the thing. Like you've gone far in your niche. Like we've both
Yeah.
hyper focused on very specific parts of our industry, and I think a lot of people think when you're niching so hard, you're losing out on a bunch of work, like a bunch of
Mm.
like you're just like limiting yourself. But I think in retrospect, you're actually doing uh, you're in a much smaller pond. So if someone is looking for that kind of work, it's like, oh, obviously I got to go with this guy. That's all he does. He's
Yeah.
going to be way better and faster and more proficient. And a lot of times, time is of the essence for these clients. So I think the only thing that it kind of requires is having a wide net. So having the following of the social media is one of the reasons I was able to be comfortable in niching so hard. Because if you have like 100 people looking at your stuff, you might not be getting work if you're just like, I only do like photorealistic food for packaging and I don't even animate. So that is like long story, actually long story long at this point. I've been talking for so long, but
No, it's great. It's great, dude. I
the
appreciate that.
origins of how I kind of got here.
Yeah, that's great. Like what you just said about niching is exactly what I've experienced as well. Especially it's greater for clients. Like I feel like since I've been doing
Mm.
niches, and then maybe you've had the same experience, the clients you get are much more uh, great to work with. Because like
Yeah,
they don't need a 3D artist for a project. They have a very specific idea in mind, and they want you for it. Like they don't want a 3D artist. They want Patrick4D, and so that's what
100%.
and so I really noticed when I started doing these niche projects where people came to me and said like I want a destructed car render, that they're also much more pleasant to work with or much more professional. Because I'm sure I'm sure you know the typical Instagram requests that come in just yo. You know
Oh
those
god.
those yos,
Yeah.
and I have
The
been getting a lot less from those since then.
yeah.
The
Every once in a
or
while you'll get the yo, what's up? It's a little bit
yeah,
better.
or like the let's
Yeah.
work. Let's work is also a classic.
Let's build, fam.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
have a
it's like,
budget, but let's build.
dude, I ran into this trap like multiple times in the beginning. It's like,
Right.
it was, yeah, it was not bad. It was not great. But yeah, so for software, as I understood, you use Redshift, ZBrush, and Cinema 4D, right? Or do you still also use
Actually,
Octane?
mostly Octane.
Octane
Mostly
still, okay.
Octane. I did use Redshift for a few projects and collaborated with Max on doing some cool stuff. At the tail end of last year, we did this one project where I was making a batch of cookies. It was like a seasonal themed thing for the holidays, and it was digital chef making stuff in ZBrush and ZBrush for iPad.
Hmm.
It was actually made on the ZBrush for iPad, but it was to show how seamless it is to go from ZBrush to iPad to standalone ZBrush or even ZBrush from iPad to straight to Cinema 4D just with a click of a button. And I think the release of that was also the announcement of like this is a feature like you can now literally uh, it's like an airdrop but for Cinema 4D or ZBrush straight
Yeah,
from the iPad. So it was
yeah, I
really
saw
cool.
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they just had me do kind of like a poster image for that collaboration, and it's actually one of the main like project files called Pro Projects that's built into Cinema and or sorry ZBrush and ZBrush for iPad
Hmm.
currently.
That's sick. I mean, I've touched on to ZBrush a little bit when it came out on the iPad, because it was like included with the Max on one, even with the less expensive version, the subscription. Because
Okay,
I don't have the full suite. I only have the Redshift and Cinema. So because I don't
gotcha.
because I actually personally I almost use no other software other than Cinema and Octane. Um,
Oh, that's nice.
Sometimes I use Embergen, like that is I love it. I love it.
Do you not do any like post work in like Photoshop or anything, or is it
A little
literally
bit,
just
like
okay?
I really tend to like make it perfect in Octane directly,
Okay,
and then yeah, and then mainly just sharpen it and maybe change a little bit of the coloring, but nothing too crazy. At least not with the latest work I did. Like 2 or 3 years
mm,
ago when I did more sci-fi stuff, I definitely added it more in post. But with the more photorealistic stuff that I do now, is like it looks like that pretty much out of Octane directly.
that's kind of how I
Yeah.
work. I do the like I get it as close as I can to what I want it to look like out of Cinema and Octane, and then I kind of export it like I'm shooting a raw photo, and then by the time I take it to Photoshop, I throw like a LUT. At this
Right.
point, I have like thousands of LUTs that I just like save, one for every render I've ever made, and I just flip through it until I'm like, oh, that looks good, and then I'll tweak it from there.
That's crazy. No, I personally I don't use any LUTs. I use the OCOs in Octane, like I use a
Oh
camera
yeah,
sensor OCO, and
got it.
from there that's pretty much it. Like I used to use LUTs, but they tend like for studio stuff like you do it works perfectly, but for the super
Mhm.
like I don't call it photorealism. I like to call it phonorealism, like because it's like more like phone shot. So it's like
Right,
bad on purpose to make it look more believable.
100%.
And that's like really really sick. But I wanted to
Yeah,
ask, I have a few questions in the chat here for you. Wizard asks if you have ever thought, well, if we've ever thought of about making cars made out of food. I have never thought about that yet.
I don't know, but you got me thinking. It could be like the paddy wagon from SpongeBob, or like
Oh, that
you
would
could
be
have the wheels be
sick.
donuts or something like
Yeah,
that.
I would be down
I
for a
like it. I
collab
like
like
where his
that.
head's at.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a cool idea.
Definitely.
And then
Totally
another
got it.
that we got. Hey, Daisy and Patrick. Sorry to interrupt the conversation. Just wanted to say that I'm incredibly happy to see you guys and streaming again. Welcome back. Thank you, man.
I wonder if
And
he was in the last one.
that would be sick. And oh yeah, Wizard also says that your food work is amazing. And
Appreciate that.
he also asked if you've ever done food for games.
I have not done any foods for games. The closest thing would be I did some kind of food, kind of like faux animations for websites. So as like you scroll, the food's kind of like doing crazy stuff. There's like a Cheerios bowl, some cool stuff like that, but never for games. Partially because I rarely ever am working in programs like Substance where I'm like
Mm.
bumping out texture maps. I do it pretty much all procedurally. So it's really hard to get like sometimes people respective clients will like come to me and they'll think it's as easy as I just make the thing and then I send it to them and in like a game or in like Unreal it looks exactly like how I made it. And they don't realize that so much of that has to do with the way the light's like bleeding in and the subsurface scattering and like all these things are that are procedural elements kind of proprietary to like Octane
Hmm.
or whatever render engine you're using. So that is always like a decently tough combo I have to have with pretty much every client.
Yeah, I feel
But
that.
yeah,
Yeah, like actually, you didn't know that even. Like, what's funny for the past year, I've actually my client work was entirely different from what you see on my social media account. It had nothing to do with it. So like, I went from
yeah.
doing car renders on social media, and my client work was last year was actually I think almost 100% exclusively spacecrafts. Like just doing like
Really?
yeah, I was doing like projects for like smaller brands and also one project with SpaceX, but like it was just an entirely different thing, and it was an interesting experience. And unfortunately, now all these projects have been concluded and it's all finished and up. And yeah, but it was a really nice experience. But it was totally
Right
different,
on.
and I don't share it on my Instagram because my Instagram is like only it's pretty much just the daily renders, and I
Did
was
you like doing those, like the spaceship things, or was that kind of out of your comfort zone?
uh no, I got guided into it a little bit because a friend of mine started a company for it, like for doing like
Mm,
propulsion systems for satellites. And so he
okay.
asked me, well, I know a guy who does renders, like we can ask him if he does it. So it was like a friendship thing we started out, and from there I got the others, and it was pretty cool. The only thing that was a setback for me is that at some point the companies need like very technically rigged models, like like
Mm,
all of the pistons on certain arms have to work exactly the way they would in real life, and in Cinema
yeah,
4D it's just really really difficult to do, or like some things are not possible to do. So like I had to give off those products to other people. um
totally.
yeah, but I thought it was a lot of fun because working with big companies usually or often is like really difficult to do because like nobody knows exactly what you're doing. But my experience with those specifically, they were all really understanding like of like what I do
That's
and what I'm
nice.
capable of. So like they were like, "Hey, we have this idea. Can you do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I have to like outsource this part." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And it's like it went like that pretty
That's
much.
good then.
Because like
Nice.
I'm
Every once
not
in a while.
I'm not a king of everything. Like I can't do everything. I can do one specific thing very very well and all the other stuff a little bit. And so yeah, that's
That is the downside, unnecessary downside of niching so badly. It's like I find that the same way. I'm like I make clients like these crazy good like hero shot static images for packaging in the food space, but then they're like, okay, now we want it to like explode and animate into like a person's hand. I'm like, not me.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
exactly
So
like
it's
that.
just it's and it's really easy to like contract out. I mean, like I think I would rather live in a scenario like that than having to be the guy to do every single thing kind of mediocre-ish because you literally can't. And if you do have the skill set to do it, you just don't have the time.
Yeah, that's true as well. Although I gotta say, one huge time saver that I've discovered in the past year was the render network from Octane. Like
Oh, I've
that
seen
thing
that.
is absolutely killer. Like
For real.
it's so fast. It's cheap, rather cheap, and like man, like I'm telling you, like I remember I was doing this animation for one of those space companies, and
Hmm.
I was calculating how much render time it would take on my machine. I don't have a beast machine. I have like a 13090 in my PC, which for rendering is like decent. But since I only do
You
stills
mostly
mostly,
do statics. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
But for the space stuff, I did animation. Simple animation, but
Hmm.
animation nonetheless. And
Yeah.
so like I was looking. It would have taken 17 days to render on my machine, and
Oh my god.
on the render network, I did it for $300 in like half a day. It was like I think like
Jesus.
7 or 8 hours. Like
Okay.
it was really really like crazy stuff. So I can really really recommend that. And they also support
Oh
redshift, by the way.
man.
Like
You know, fun
Yeah.
fact, I've never used a render farm.
Uh,
Ever.
I have not until that day either. Like I have only gotten into it after I met the Otoy guys in Amsterdam. Like that's where I was like, oh shit, it's so easy to
Okay.
use. Cause like, yeah, and now they have the Cinema 4D plugin as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about!
Hey,
that's still
Kristen,
so loud. I don't know why. Wait, I'm just gonna. Can I turn the sound alerts like the just the sound off? I don't know. Let me just check. Yeah, I've not used OBS in such a long time, dude.
Oh yeah, no, they keep making updates to it
Yeah.
too. There's always some kind of update.
Sweet. We got another question for Patrick actually. What is your planning process? For instance, do you start on paper or and then move to 3D? Or...
The planning process, I would say typically, and I guess this is the way I prefer to work. I used to consider myself more of a creative director, as well as a 3D artist, but nowadays I really feel like I'm just bringing ideas that like agencies or the client has to life. So in a perfect scenario, they'll say, "Hey, um, we want these donuts for packaging or something, and we want like three different angles, one with a bite taken out of." And in the best case, they have someone that like sketches up like a rough mock-up for me, so I know exactly the proportions I need to make. And the cool thing about the food space is usually I get sent a ton of food to my place, so sometimes it's released, sometimes it's before it's even out, and I just get to eat a bunch of like free food that they send,
Dude,
that
that
I can like
is
kind of study.
that is
Um,
so sick.
and it's funny because it's like all I really need is like a few images. Like that's how I make my dailies on Instagram. But they're just like, no, we got you. We'll send you the product. We'll send you each of everything. And some of these projects, it's like I'm redesigning the packaging for like 13 flavors. So it's like I get these massive shipments of food shipped to the place. So it's like as far as planning on my end, I mean, it's really me looking at like what I need to make, figuring out how long it's going to take me. I guess it depends whether we're talking about like budgeting and estimating or if it's just from like creating. I really just go with the flow. I create the stuff all in ZBrush, make the scene as final as I can. And if there's like stuff scattered, like, sesame seeds or if it's like sprinkles, I decide whether it makes more sense for me to do something like nano mesh and ZBrush, where that's like the scattering all over the certain meshes, or if I bring it into Cinema and clone those kind of objects. And usually it depends on whether we need to be making a ton of different SKUs or just one main hero image. If it's just one, I actually like having the precision of just like dialing in this seed here, this seed here, this seed
Mhm.
here, and then go from there. But if it's something where we need like a bunch of these things made in a really fast formation, then maybe do that part in Cinema.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit less planning and like me sketching out ideas than maybe a lot of artists. But now we're getting into the old stuff.
Yeah. I'm just scrolling through.
But
Like,
no,
I'm
yeah.
just waiting to get to the old Nickelodeon characters. Those are
Oh
gonna come
no.
soon as well. Dude, those were fun. I
Yeah,
think that
these
was the
get
first time that I
crazy.
saw your stuff really go viral.
Let me see
That
if I
was
can bring up this. Me
you.
too. That was some of those went viral on like Reddit and stuff, and I didn't know anything about Reddit at the time, but it was pretty crazy.
How has your
Let me bring
experience
up
been
this.
with the viral stuff of stolen content? How has your experience been? Because mine like when I did the barn finds, that was like
Um,
I was not sleeping for 2 days because of it. Like,
you said when you got into bar fights?
yeah, bar fight. No, the barn finds.
I was like, what? Oh.
The bar fights.
This. I was like, I didn't know this side of you, Dizzy. Oh, here we go. Here we
Yeah,
go.
this stuff. I remember this. This was so good. I remember I
I
was
probably
blown
have.
away by the lighting on these back
Ah,
then.
jeez.
I love this one. The
Yeah, not to
Squidward.
shamelessly plug, but I do have all my lighting scenarios. These ones and like the food ones come from my HDRI packs that
Yeah, do
I
do the
have on my
plug. Like,
site.
I've been using them as well for my studio renders. It's always the Patrick4D lighting
Hey,
stuff.
I think I got that tag a few days ago. Was that you?
Probably, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah. I
yeah.
still every
No, I
time I do
appreciate that.
studio stuff, I use it. Yeah.
Let me see if I have. Okay, I think this is. Yeah, menu.
Crush, I see that. I always see that when you tag me.
Full screen. There we go.
What about the light settings? Do you do trial and error or do you always get it right? As
So
question by Wizard.
Yeah, typically I have a preset like studio file that I use. And I think one of the reasons my images seem to mesh really well together is because they do have essentially the same lighting setup, give or take a few area lights. Um, and so because I think that's a really good way to like I'm making different foods every single day, so they look way different. But when you put them in the same environment, I think it's always helpful to have some element that brings them all together. Maybe that's a similar colored background, maybe that's a similar lighting situation, especially when you're making different objects all day and every day. But I came from the film background, so just knowing different techniques about 3 point lighting, uh, typically it's just one HDRI that gives it a really good like backlight or rim light and
Hmm.
just like nice overall coating of generic light, and then I blast it with like a massive softbox from up and above and maybe to the left or something. I'm definitely not one of those people that put like a million lights in their scene, partially because I'm not making stuff like Dizzy's making them where it's like full environments and like there's a car and then there's like all this other stuff happening over here. It's really just floating food hero shots. So the less the better, and I have more
Yep.
control over the reflections and stuff like that.
That's nice. I mean, I gotta say, even though my renders, because you said like this photorealistic stuff, they also don't take a lot of time. Like I have my workflow and I
Right.
can do it in like an hour. Like those crashed car scenes,
100%.
an hour and a half max. But because
It's so
the
crazy.
first one takes like 6 hours to make, the second one takes 2 hours, and then from there you just can do like really quick.
Then you just fine tune them. Same thing with me. Like for me, the time saver is having that default scene set up in cinema. So I spend 90% of my time, maybe like 80% in ZBrush every morning, and then I just throw them into my preset scene. And then my way of time saving is instead of reinventing the wheel, retexturing all the time, I have like hundreds of food textures saved now. So it's just like chocolates, cakes, Oreo, like
Yeah,
everything you can imagine, ice cream, steak, beef, chicken. And I start with that, and then I'll usually finesse them a little bit after on. So it's just a big time saver.
yeah, that's yes, same for me. I mean, I don't have like these scenes, the entire scene saved, but I sometimes reuse scenes because I like the lighting in one scene, I just like copy shit
Yep,
around.
totally.
I used to use proxies a lot, but it's like really complicated with like my NAS now because like you can't like switch stuff so quick. But that was really cool too. Like the cinema for the XREF thing. Have you ever used that?
The you said XRev?
XREF, I think it's called, yeah, or
I don't
Ref.
think so.
It's like basically you can like you have one scene that has an asset, and then you have your main scene that has the asset in it, and everything you change in the other scene changes in
Oh,
the main scene as
so
well.
it's like
So
a
like
smart object in Photoshop.
right, exactly, yeah. So like you can
Gotcha.
pretty
No, I
much
haven't actually.
you can pretty much, for example, like remodel a car in like in just an empty scene, and copy that as an XREF into your main object main project where you have
Interesting.
like the entire scene ready, and everything you change in the first scene with just the car, for example, changes in the other one as well.
Gotcha.
I've also only found out about it like a year ago, and it's been in there since like R11. Like, it was- so
I'm gonna get with you about this because this sounds interesting.
yeah, it's really time saving because especially when you work like
Totally.
with multiple assets in like one scene and you have to change stuff a lot. I don't know if you have to do that a lot, but it's sometimes it comes
Yeah,
in very
totally.
handy. Yeah, yeah. By the way,
100%.
if you want to share any screen or anything, you can also
Yeah.
like interrupt me or share anything you like, or if you don't, then don't. So that's
So
like
I
whatever.
found this trying to think what makes better sense. Would it make more sense for me to share my screen here or just switch it on like this?
Woo! I like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is typically like the deck I show people if like I'm presenting at something like SIGGRAPH or half res we did last year was really fun.
Yes,
But again, graduate from SCAD. Look at this freaking swaggy guy. Oh, it's
always
got my
swagging.
picture here too. You can see me like in the. Hey,
Oh,
look at
that's
that too.
live. Yeah, I see. Man,
Yeah, I was like, what the hell?
you don't know how envious I am of your freaking workspace, dude.
Appreciate it, man. Hey, trust me, the lighting in the background gets super. That's why I just got these bright ass lights, and sometimes they're still not even bright enough. But yeah, I'm always dealing with a big wall of light here, but it's nice to get the natural light. Yeah, this is the same situation, different
Sweet.
lighting scenario. Done a bunch of presentations. This one was SIGGRAPH last year in Denver. This was half res, like I was talking about, in Chicago later that year. Used to be just like a swaggy boy that made music videos. This was like at my beginning of my Atlanta days. This was probably 2015 or something, if I had to guess. Way back in the day, I was like shooting like music videos and stuff.
Dude,
I thought I was going to be a director.
Is 10 years ago.
Yeah, director of photography or something like that. These were some stills from like when I was shooting productions. So like, you know, shaping light, doing all these things. You got the teal and orange vibes back here. So I had a lot of film influence early on, and it helped. These are some like photography work. Even before film, I was doing photography. So this is like long exposure photography. This is Atlanta. The skyline looks so different now, but this is back in the day what it would look like. Worked with a bunch of rappers like Rich the Kid, Migos, Offset.
Nice.
And this is at a time also where if you guys know anything about Atlanta or the rap scene, like the Migos and Rich the Kid, all these guys were like just starting to blow up at that moment. So that's why I made my home Atlanta, coming from Chicago.
That's nice. I mean, yeah.
I really went from.
Isn't Atlanta like almost like the capital of rap, or like of
the hip hop mecca? They call it.
Hip hop mecca. Yeah, right.
Yeah, 100%. And I think so. I went from using cinema cameras like this to this. Cameras. And my work on the early days, literally the first year or two working in cinema, was just this kind of stuff. This was no Octane. This was all physical render, which is like a CPU based render that was built into Cinema 4D in 2016. I see a question there. You do not need drawing background because I can't draw for anything. Like I draw stick figures, so it's a different skill set, which honestly in retrospect makes me think maybe if I really cared about drawing I could learn, because so I started doing stuff like this. I was like, again, this is one of those things. This is probably one of the most complex models I made using just the volume builder. This was just the volume builder.
No,
every asset on here. Yes.
So no polygon polygon modeling. Damn.
Yeah, just millions of like polygons. Like you would expect to see a very nice, like correctly formed wireframe behind here, but I specifically didn't show the wireframe because it's so bad. It's just black. And then I got into ZBrush and started making different things. This was like some character work. And I kind of had this like vibe to my work where it would always be on a black backdrop because, glows and stuff stood out. I don't think this was ZBrush, but this was cinema. And then I got into the really crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, let me move this.
I remember this so well.
Yeah. This is some gross work, some SpongeBob work, some Captain Knuckles, but I just tried to make them like larger than life and like grotesque. It was like, what if these characters got into drugs and alcohol?
How did you texture them, by the way?
With it. This was all in Octane procedurally. Like a fun fact for these faces, like they look disgusting. But they had this like really weird, uncanny kind of photoreal skin quality to them. And the way I did that was a bunch of subsurface scattering and also like overlaid like I said, like some of these really gross areas where the skin looks like all splotchy. I used a photo of a pizza of this girl's face, and it just like somehow with the skin tones worked out. And so when you use like a color correct node to dial in like the gamma, you can dial in how gross they actually look. And then I got into, when I made a bunch of these kind of things, I got into like cartoon foods.
Yeah.
The Patty Wagon from SpongeBob, the Homer Simpson donut, the purple flurp from Jimmy Neutron. So I had a really fun time doing these kind of things. And eventually I was like, okay, if I can make these things look tasty and these don't even exist, what if I just like, oh, there's another one, Patrick's hand. There's something satisfying about this one because it's just a really weird thing to see how close up Patrick's skin looks. It's just like really weird.
Yeah.
But yes, Patrick is a SpongeBob fan. Then I was like, why don't I just make real food? So this became a series of like, first I went to environments, first I went to this, all the way to food. And it's essentially just a series I have not ended yet after years and years. So I just like pushed the bar, kept making different food renders, and within the food space, I was doing different what do you call it? Series within the food space. So it
Yeah.
was like, what if Chanel made cookies? What if Louis Vuitton made little cracker cookie things? What if Michael Kors collabed with like M&Ms or something like that? Another fun way to do these series is like, what if I combine different things to make new candies? This one is a combination of Pop Tarts and Twix. This is Ritz crackers and Butterfinger, and this is Goldfish and Nutella. So super.
I would dig that. Goldfish and Nutella sounds good.
I'm telling you, man. I was like, the amount of comments I get too from these brands are like, "Huh, this is a good idea. We should look into this."
Has
It's
it
crazy,
has it ever been done? Like, has ever any of your food ideas actually been like put into actual product?
Yeah, I did a collaboration with Duncan last year to where I was like, what if we combined? Actually, I think it's gonna come up later in this. This is like a hot pocket mixed with a Big Mac. Tacone. This is a ramen bar, which I don't even know if this would be good or bad, but it's here.
I mean, it looks good.
Social media again just has helped so much into getting this name out and just making all this content. And it's kind of got me back into my film roots a little bit, like filming myself and like messing with lighting. And it's turned into really fun projects. This is one with Pop Tarts. It hits different when you make something that can like I've always done stuff on the digital side, but like when you get to see the stuff in like a store that you've always shopped in, I always thought that was a cool feeling.
Yeah.
To be doing that. So these are just things you can find on like the store shelves. This was that collaboration with Dunkin' where I was like, what if you combine Dunkin' Donuts with like s'mores? And then they actually came out with like a s'mores donut.
Oh, that's sick.
So, that was a collaboration with them.
And that looks so good, that cake.
More texturing work, just like diving deeper into the stuff. This is like Panda Express.
The thing about your materials that I always am so surprised at positively is how much depth your materials have. Like it's so like it doesn't look like a model anymore. It's for example a salad right here, like all of these onion bits and stuff. It's like all SSS is so well dialed. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's that and like the lighting. You know?
Yeah.
It's like I think people forget how much like this. If I lit this any differently, it may not even look appetizing at all because you don't get that. Like the lighting is what gives something grease. It's what gives something juiciness, or because you're only seeing the reflection. So I think so many people get carried up on like, oh, are you selling your textures? Are you doing this? It's I would say it's just as important, if not more, to put it in environments that you would expect to put food in. Because all of these ones here, they have like nice highlights and all that stuff. Yes, all procedural, and yes, the shader library is immense at this point. Just different stuff here, some fruity Kit Kat stuff. Can get very deep into these crunches.
Do you also render these in a very high resolution for social media as well, or is it like
nah.
Is it just
Typically 1600 by 2K is what I render them at for social media, and then they compress down to like, I forget what Instagram size is, but it works for that.
I think it's 1080 by 1350. At least that's what I always render at.
Gotcha.
Like the 1080. But
yeah, this one was fun. The half res was that convention in Chicago in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can tell, but I used the logo.
I see
to export the cheese. So it's like,
oh wait, what?
It's hard to tell. It actually says half res.
I see I see it now. Yeah, I see the res.
But then I fused it together to make it like a kind of a perfect medium. Like you don't know it unless you're explaining what's going on. But it was a perfect extrude of the logo in cheese.
Damn.
So I thought that was like a fun little thing. Through doing food, it's been like a very cool, like you get to learn how to do how to make things in different ways, and like I found so many cool ways that I think you wouldn't expect. Like I think rice, you would expect to just like clone a bunch of things together, call it a day, might be kind of high poly, but I found that for stuff like this, it's really helpful to like clone them all together in a program like ZBrush, have it be really dense, fuse them together so there's not just like intersections everywhere, and then you decimate. And then when you decimate, this is like a very heavily decimated model. So I think there was probably only like 200,000 polygons on this, which kind of a lot. But for what you're looking at, like it's pretty much impossible to have something of this fidelity without having a little bit less poly count than that.
I mean, when you said like you decimated, I was thinking that this model still has like 1 million, 2 million polygons, just because like,
right.
But it's all probably just bumps and normals, right? That gives the details.
Yeah, I mean, slight bump for like the little tiny details. But I don't even think there's no displacement or anything in this. It's mainly just letting the light bleed in, and that's why you get like the different values showing here. Here's some different
Getting hungry again.
like a Pakistani chicken biryani. This is from the global series I did, where I was like picking different countries and making those, because it's like, all right, I've made the chicken fingers, I've made the burgers, like what else we got? And it kind of pushed the bar a little bit. Started streaming with ZBrush, I think a year or two ago. So once a month I'll stream on ZBrush live from the Maxon ZBrush accounts. So
nice.
Feel free to look those up. That's the closest thing to being able to see like the full process nowadays.
Do you still do it on Discord as well?
Yes. It's not like an everyday thing, but I try to do it as much as I can.
Ah, nice.
But I'm always on there, whether I'm streaming or not. Like we're always just chilling in there.
Yeah. So guys, if you're
curious.
So guys, if you're not on Patrick4D's Discord yet, make sure to join, because he's much more active than I am in mine, and he does stream on there as well. That's why I was asking, because I remember about a year ago I was joining every now and then, but I kind of lost track of everything after a while. But
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's pretty much it. The Discord is hold on, can I just click? There we go.
There you go. You're back.
The Discord is discord.gg/P4D.
Wait, let me just put that in the chat right now. Wait, it's discord.gg/P4D. Should be.
And that, yeah, sometimes we do render challenges. Sometimes we have people kind of talk, and like we do like presentations, which I would love to have you on there if you're down.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Would be an honor, man. I would love to.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a fun place, especially since a lot of us don't work at like an office where you have like that camaraderie. It does give people gives people something to look forward to every morning. It's like, oh, let's see what this guy's gonna make, or let's like talk to these guys. Like we have a few people that are always on there just streaming, shooting the shit, chilling. So it's become a really cool place.
Yeah, for me, I just got really inactive on any like Discord and stuff a little bit after streaming, because like I'm like always putting all my soul and everything into like these streams and the videos and tutorials, and then I need to step back and like get time for myself, and then like I look sporadically in it and like answer questions and stuff, but I'm not in it always, which I could do better, but I have to find my way, which is also why I didn't stream for like a year now. Just taking a little break and like
I think most people are like that.
Yeah.
Like I think most people, like I know a bunch of 3D artists, big and small, that have like their own server, and they're rarely actually in there. I think maybe I'm different in the way that it's like when I'm on there, like you think when you're like your camera's on and you're streaming, you're like on. It's like kind of like this, but it's like I've treated that thing as like just a chill zone. Like I actually don't feel like I'm like in the spotlight or anything, because we're all just like chilling. It's as if I'm FaceTiming a friend, except it's on Discord. Right. So I think it's why, because even when in my downtime when I'm working on client work or if I'm just chilling, I'll be on Discord just chilling. So it's just been a nice place to actually find out new information too. Like I've never used Unreal, but I feel like I know everything about it because of the stuff people say every day. Like keeping me up with the times. So it's also good for that.
No, I feel that. I mean, I've been playing around with Unreal as well. The only downside is that the project size is so big, so I can't do dailies with it, because like it's like 20 gigabytes for each daily, and like hard drive space is cheap, but it doesn't grow on trees yet. Like,
not yet.
Yeah. Soon maybe. Yeah. But that would be fun actually. Because one thing that I also find interesting about your work, well, I would say it's most 3D people as well, but I am much different to that. Is that you create everything that you see in your renders, like
Mhm.
you start from scratch. Of course, the materials that you make, you said you use a library, but you still everything you make is 100% comes from you, which is something that I find even more impressive considering when you make daily renders. Because like I personally, for example, I don't model anything. Like I just don't enjoy modeling. I like lighting. I like storytelling and stuff like that. Um, and so that's why I find it interesting to see like um, you going sort of like the same route as I do, like doing daily renders, but like you said, going in a niche and also the work
Yeah.
having the workflow so much differently, even though you use the same software.
Yeah, and it evens out. Like we may do kind of the opposite thing where I'm making everything and you're more compositing everything in the scene, but it's like you're worrying about a whole environment. I'm worrying about just these subjects that are like in the front and center and nothing. Like oftentimes there's nothing in the background; they're just floating in space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it kind of evens out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do agree with that. Though. Um, have you done something for a sphere yet? That's something
Dude, I
always
have not.
wondering. I haven't either, but
I feel like I
I've
haven't
seen a few
because I don't
people
animate. I feel like that's
probably.
like, or do you have? Don't they all animate, or do some just?
I think
They're
they do.
static?
They all do. I think they all do. But
Yeah.
yeah. How
Maybe if
has? Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say maybe if I did some like exploding like Oreos or like some sprinkles and like fun stuff like that. But again, traditionally I'm not like an animator at heart,
Yeah.
which you
No,
would
I
expect
feel.
I would be because I went to film school. Like you would expect I'd love to do this stuff, but for some reason I'm not in love with the process.
No, I feel that though. You know, I went into 3D wanting to do stage visuals. Like that's why I got into it, and so I did that for like up until like COVID essentially, and
Mm.
it just burned me out pretty much. It was fun,
Yeah.
of course. It was fun. It was fun seeing the stuff that you did, but it was just such a different work from. And I am a person. I want to see something at the end of the day. I want to be done. Like that.
Totally.
Like at least some sort of result. Um, just comment in about social media because like I see a lot of people, very talented people, who just like can't get their foot in the door on social media. You know, like people like do like crazy. Like for example, Wizard in the chat right now is a friend of mine who does like car models that I use sometimes. Uh,
Oh, nice.
and just
Like he
from
makes
like
the models.
he makes them, yeah, like from
Wow.
models to everything from scratch, texture stuff, and like just from that I should have less followers than he does, like because it's so crazy. So like, I see you do nowadays. You do pretty much only reels or like reels with the image on it. Um,
Yeah.
how like is that? Do you do that because you love doing it for the how do I put it in the words like for the film aspect of it, or do you do it because you see like for example I do reels because I know that the reach is easier to reach because of it.
I think a little bit of both. I think when I started doing, I remember when Reels came out, and I realized there was like this. People were saying, "Oh, they're pushing Reels harder than like images now. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to be a video platform." I was a little bit bummed out until I realized I'm like, this is kind of a way for me to get back into the film world. I used to do music videos. All a reel is, at least in my eyes, is just a mini music video. Like I pick out the music
Mm-hmm.
first. I'm like, oh, what would be a fun vibe? What would be a dope vibe? And I just cut the shots to the music. And it seems like a very hands-on process, but I've gotten so like the reels now probably take me 10, 15 minutes max
Oh, okay.
because it's everything's so streamlined. So it's easy to just go, oh, let's go to this angle, boom. I'm kind of underexposed here, but like it's like very easy. And then with the Stream Deck, you record, which I'm already recording, I believe. Um, and then you have the aspect ratio of like the 16 by 9 or 9 by 16, and then I usually do that main angle that saves to my Google Drive. I just download it in 2 seconds, and then I just do a few quick photos of me zooming into my ZBrush, and then transition. I use CapCut currently until I think Instagram's coming out with this thing called Clips, which I might start using that,
Oh yeah, I
depending on
saw
how
that.
that looks.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's really fast, and I think it's gotten. I think when you're on camera more, it creates not only people feel more of a connection to you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this guy's actually making this, but also in a world of AI and like generated images, it's just showing from the start that I'm actually making this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, oh, this was made with AI. There's no, you know, like, there's no kind of misinformation there. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
showing people I'm making it. And then lastly, it's like good for just brand recognition. Like if I go to SIGGRAPH or one of these conventions, if everyone knows my work but not me as a person, which a lot of artists do, which is, it's not wrong, but it depends on what your goal is. I think now when I step into places like that, it's like, okay, people, I don't have to explain myself or explain, oh, I did this. People know, oh, this is Patrick. He does the food. He does all this, and they know because I'm always on camera. So then it just comes down to if you're comfortable on camera. But I think if you can muster the strength, it's always a good thing to be able to be comfortable.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I gotta say, like with the whole reels being pushed thing, I thought that was true up until like 2 months ago. I don't know if something changed in the algorithm or something, but I remember my reach was like on like regular posts was like maybe 0.2% of my followers, which is crazy low, like even for
Oh
Instagram
my
stuff.
god.
And then I started doing some reels and stuff, and all of a sudden, like some of them hit like 7, 8, 9. Even one has like 35 million views,
Jesus.
and like just random. I don't know what the algorithm is like. Super. It's not very good. It's like just random video, and then I was like, oh, that's the way to go. And then when I posted the crashed cars that I made a couple of months ago, those went viral as images, which I was really surprised at. But what's funny is that most of my viral posts don't go viral on Instagram. They go viral, like you said earlier, on Reddit.
Yeah.
And then from there, I get the credit, and then the people come back to my account. Like that's how it usually goes, and it's uh, such a weird path. And of course, like I don't even want to know how much reach I would have gotten if everybody that stole the images would have credited. Like because
Oh my
like
god, I know.
people like every time one image goes viral, the first time I see it is somewhere on Reddit or on Twitter with the signature cropped out. It's like
Oh,
they just do that, and it's
the worst, man.
yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah. The algorithm is always a weird thing because when you realize it's like your career is based in the hands, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. So if
Yeah.
the algorithm is just all of a sudden just doesn't pitch you to anyone, including your followers, which should be a
Hmm.
given, um, it's just like devastating. But I think I did realize at some point the difference between now and before. Like there was a time when an average static post was getting like at some point sometimes 3 to 5,000 likes or something like that. There
Hmm.
was just a much bigger percentage of people that were following me, and this is when I had like 20,000 followers or something,
Right,
like
right.
nothing crazy. I think the difference now is that everyone's a creator. Like everyone now is making stuff. So when a much bigger percentage of people are making things, there's just not enough bandwidth to be showing your content to everyone who's scrolling, and that and mixing in with content because people, if I was pitched to all of my followers, then there would be no room to pitch to like outside people.
Yeah,
Like
true.
I think that's so I think people do. It's weird because people complain about I'm seeing all this suggested content. I don't want to see this. But then like also
Hmm.
if you're an artist, that's kind of how you get recognized too.
Yeah,
If you're just being thrown out in the abyss. So I'm sure it's a tough task. I mean, people are always going to hate Instagram and Meta for the way they handle things, but I don't know the perfect combination or equation to getting everything right. I mean, I want all my followers to see my stuff, but it is an interesting feat to say the least.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it also kind of makes sense how the reels thing works a little better because I mean, I don't know about you, but when I open Instagram, usually the first thing I go to is the reels. Like I don't. It's not a image viewing app anymore. Even like the way that I use it. Of course I go through it a little bit, but I remember like 5 years ago it was just images. Like you like we're just looking at images, at art and stuff, and now it's like brain rot stuff, which is also fun. But of course,
So much brain rot.
yeah, I'm all in for the brain rot.
It's the doom scrolling is crazy.
Yeah,
Sometimes I gotta just put
it
my
really
phone
is.
down.
Yeah,
I don't think I would have Instagram if my career didn't depend on it.
honestly, honestly, it might be true. I don't know if I would have downloaded it if I didn't post stuff. Like probably I would because of like other people that watch everything and like you want to kind of be able to talk with them. But you might be right about that. That like,
Yeah.
I would probably not have used Instagram as much if it wasn't the career, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, dude, totally. Let me think if there is anything else we could.
Yeah. What you got?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Let me see for a sec. Well, going back to like, no, here's one that was the one that I wanted to ask. What was that one turning point where you said, I'm going to make one render every day now? Like when, who was like, was there an artist that inspired you to do it, or was there like an artwork that you saw where you're like, that's what I want to do, or did you just flow gradually into it, or?
I mean, honestly, I would have to say Beeple, because he was the only person I knew that was doing. That was one of my favorite renders.
That's why I have it here.
Bro,
That's
that
the
one
one
is
that started for
crazy.
me.
Like that still holds up today.
Yeah.
You know, even though he's inspired so many people and creators, now people just do that style, and they think like they may not even know people, but it's like
Yeah.
the real ones know. Anyone who still does like the landscape, like environmental renders with like the tiny human and the massively scaled objects, that's people.
Yeah. It is.
So I would say Beeple, man. I mean, he was just one of the first people that I saw that made really dope stuff, but also was streaming on a consistent basis. And like I said, I was much more. I used to try much harder to do like every single day, kind of like how you're doing. But I kind of just like at some point I'm like, there's just not enough stuff. Sometimes I'm like really busy with client work. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to just make a Snickers again. Sometimes I don't think of things at the right time. So, yeah, and then sometimes I'm just lazy, to be honest.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure. I mean, it's the same. Like sometimes that's why I change my style so much. Like it's always cars, but like I do even if the work that I do works really well, like reach wise. After about a week, I have to change it up because, like you said, I don't want to do a Snickers bars again. It's like I don't want to do a car in a pond again. Like it's like
Right.
so on the other hand, I have to come up with something else, and sometimes what I come up with is bullshit, and sometimes it's really good. So it's like depends. It's always up and down.
Yeah.
And
these days, I have so much content that some of my posts I actually repost or repurpose for future stuff. Because if we're talking, you know, like Wizard said or whatever, if 10% reach on a typical post, like on a generous day, like if I post something from 2 years ago, which is I guess a good thing of making so much content, so many reels, chances are, even if I repost it, the people that are seeing it will have never seen it to begin with. So it's like just reruns, like commercials and stuff like that. I think it can be used to your advantage.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, another question from Wizard. What's your mentality towards your work versus the beginning, and how did it affect your workflow? That's a good one.
What's my mentality towards your work now versus the beginning? I think the mentality was, I think I have a much more clear and defined path now where the gears are just moving. I wake up every morning, I shower, get coffee downstairs, come back up and just stream. You know, people are looking forward to what the streaming process looks like. So it gives me kind of motivation to make stuff versus before. I think it was always just like spitballing, you know, what literally am I going to do an environment? Am I just going to do abstract? Like what kind of work am I trying to do? And I think I never really used to ask myself those questions because it was just, I mean, to this day, I'm technically just following the rabbit hole, seeing what sticks, what happens. I just have a much clearer defined path. And before, I used to actually get inspiration from people like Beeple or Hoodass or some other artists back in the day. Whereas, like I said, there's not many people doing food. Like I literally look at my previous works for inspiration, or like look at them for like, oh, what do I not like, or what could I do better, um, and what can I improve on. And so I think it keeps my head a little bit more grounded and not, because so many people have this mentality, especially being an artist, that they think their stuff's not good enough. they think, like I went to SCAD where so many people were so much more talented than me, like at drawing and other stuff, and they're just like, yeah, I don't think I'm good enough to post this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so we see most artists have like this negative mentality. They're almost undersell themselves. Um, and I guess I'm sort of the counterweight, not in like a cocky way, but just like just being confident about posting stuff. Like, yeah, I made this stuff. I'm proud of my work. Um, and not being afraid to just like post whatever you want. And I think because I went to school for film and not 3D, I never had the mindset of like, oh, I better be good at this. Otherwise, like I'm a screw up, because I was never supposed to be good at 3D. I was supposed to be good at film. And so I think 3D, I was like, yeah, even if I suck at, who cares? Like I was just doing this for fun. And the
Yep.
fact that this stuff is all just externally, uh, it just came from me trying stuff out. I think it gave me a lot of confidence.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good advice actually, and I totally agree with that. I think that many artists that think worse of themselves, including myself sometimes, I'm getting better with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like to be actually proud of what I do. But I think it's because they have like their inspiration or like the artist they look up to, and look like their work essentially. Um, just because their work doesn't look like theirs, it has to be worse. But it's just different. It's not because it's never gonna be the same. That's like everybody has. Even if you change your workflow a little bit, it's gonna look a little different. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, I've been told that, for example, when I render a car, even if I make a clean studio render, people see that it's me because the way I work. And I think, and for you, for example, I've seen food renders in like commercials and stuff, for example. And if I see one of your food renders, I know it's you because like the it has like you can't really put it into words for what it is, but it has like
The sauce.
the sauce, exactly, the sauce, literally
No pun
in
intended.
your case. Yeah,
Yeah.
it has that, and some people think that that's a bad thing, like they don't see their sauce as the defining point. They see their sauce as the the needle in the eye, which has to be fixed, but
Yeah.
it's not that.
100%.
Um,
No, I totally agree.
that it is definitely something that everybody has to learn. I think it's just something that I mean, you
Some
said
people learn it right away. Some people
Yeah.
don't learn it for a while. Like it took me pretty much touching every single type of expertise before I got to food, and I was like, oh, I actually feel like this is my home.
Yeah.
So it took years to get to this point, but it wasn't like a very unpleasant few years. I was enjoying the process. I was just like
Hmm.
following the rabbit hole, like really just like having fun with it. So I think it's the people who are motivated by just like money or just getting viral on TikTok or Instagram. I think that's where it starts feeling crazy. You start comparing yourself and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, I don't like this. It's not coming fast enough because you're counting the days. I was
Mhm.
never really counting the days. Like, I was just having a good time with it. And then you
Yeah.
get better if you're having a good time and you can spend those crazy hours doing something. It's as if you're playing a video game.
Right. No, that's it's exactly the same for me. I mean, I do count the days because I have to like sometimes I have to push myself to do it. Like even if I don't want to, there are days that I just don't like doing it. But most of the time, it's like brushing my teeth. I don't have to think about it. It's like just I do it
Right.
exactly. I do it every day on the same time. There's like it's right before lunch. I do my daily, and so like that's why I don't have anything to do anyway. So like I do that,
Yeah.
and so that's what I do. And mm, there's one more question I wanted to ask, but I literally just thought about it. I don't know what it was. Yeah, what were you talking just before I said what I said now? Like,
What was I saying?
yeah,
Uh, I guess like imposter syndrome and feeling like your
imposter syndrome.
work's good enough to. Was it after that?
Right. The imposter syndrome. Now I remember what it was. So like, about the imposter syndrome? I think everybody gets imposter syndrome once they are on the edge of finding their own style. That's when most people get their imposter syndrome stuff. And about the mental health that you said earlier on, when money starts to get involved, or like when you start for doing it for the money, I just wanted to touch down on that because remember the whole NFT thing? back then. It was a very small little thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was artistically the best time of my life, mentally the worst I've ever been. And I'm so happy it's over. Like, I'm so happy I'm not engaged in it that much anymore, even though this was a cool thing. But like, ever since that has started to go down again, the mental health in art mine is like up again. That was such an interesting experience. Like,
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the NFT thing for me was I never came out with my own like series
mhm.
or NFTs like that, but I took some on as like contracted work as if I would take on any other job.
Yeah.
Which I think in hindsight I'm glad because everything crashed
definitely.
at some point. But were you just saying mentally was the worst was because of the volume of work, or you're saying you just didn't like the type of work you were making, or what?
No, it was like I saw what is possible, like money wise. It was pretty much just about that, and all of a sudden, everybody that I knew, or like a lot of people that I knew, were like world famous, making millions of dollars, and I didn't. So that was the thing, like my mindset started to really roll. It's stupid in hindsight, but it happens. Like,
Yeah,
it's yeah.
interesting.
Wizard just
No,
asked
I feel bad.
the imposter thing. What does that feel like? Oh, dude, that be happy that you don't feel it. Apparently, imposter syndrome is
I
pretty much that you don't like your own work. Like you think you're not good enough with your work. You are basically your own hater, even though everybody else likes it.
Yeah, I think I had more of that in the film world. I think the way I've always thought about imposter syndrome is like, you know, you come up to the scene, you start learning something, and you realize there's all these other people that have done similar stuff, like create 3D and all this stuff. And I think it stems from not thinking you deserve the praise, or not to like all these other people you look up to have like been through hell and back, and they've done all this stuff. They like learned the hard way and did all this, and like you're here and you're making stuff, and you may have people that like your work, but you don't think that you should be in the same room as like some of the people you look up to, or think that your stuff is, I don't know, it's a negative feeling. And I think I felt it more in the film world because, like I said, I went to school for film, and most people in the film world actually didn't go to school. So I was always like, damn, I better not look like an idiot. Like, am I doing this stuff right? I literally paid money to like go to school for this craft, and a lot of other people probably look down on, you know, not education, but the film world was very gritty and very cutthroat. So I think there were a lot of people that thought, oh, he went to school, like look at this guy, like and so coming out of that space, not knowing something like about lenses or lighting or composition, you're always just super hard on yourself. Like, I should know more than this. I should like, you're always comparing yourself to other people. That's how I always thought of imposter syndrome. So I think that's maybe what's why I'm so not careful, but intentional about like how I view my content. I really don't. When I'm on Instagram, I'm either posting stuff or like replying to people or looking at old work. You know, I'll scroll for a little bit, but I don't really get too caught up on like worrying about what other people are posting.
Yeah, that's a really healthy mindset on here as well. 100%. 100%. Wizard asked, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 83.
83, damn.
No, I'm 29.
Hey,
29 years old.
Hell yeah.
You 29 too?
No, I'm 27.
Oh, okay.
Almost. I'm getting there too, man. I'm getting into.
Yeah, I feel it, man.
Yeah, dude.
My wrist got messed up in tennis the other week, so I'm like, I'm falling apart.
Dude, like I've been bouldering for the past like 2 years. Like my fingers are like all fucked up now, but it's fun. Like,
yeah, we still young.
Yeah, we still young, man.
We still young.
Oh man.
We're in our 20s.
No, yeah, that was a really cool first episode, man. I really enjoyed this.
Likewise, man. It feels like home. Feels like a full circle.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's, you know, we always go back. I mean, sometimes we don't talk for a while, but like it's always coming back at some point. It's always nice. That's the great part about the 3D community. It's always everybody's so nice. Everybody's so nice and supportive.
It really is. It's way less cutthroat. It was great to be back, man. It's good to catch up, chop it up with you.
Yeah, likewise, man.
I'll definitely talk to you about that stuff in my Discord if you want. Because I'm gonna start doing more of those.
I have to join a little bit more again, for sure.
It's a good time. It's just chill.
Where does Patrick stream? Patrick streams, what did he say, once a month on the ZBrush channel? No, on the Maxon channel. No,
yeah, the official streams are once a month. It's not like a specific day. I kind of like make it random once a month, and I post about it on my Instagram. So if you want to get caught up, it's usually on my Instagram, on my stories. But I stream on the Maxon ZBrush, I believe Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter, maybe.
Twitter, okay.
Or X.
It's gonna always be Twitter in heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, everybody in chat, about the imposter syndrome, just a little side note. One thing you can do to really bump your confidence, go to the 3D events. Like, go to, if you're in America, SIGGRAPH, and what is there? SIGGRAPH, Control Z, Camp MoGraph, or like any of those, any of those events. Because like, if you get like you always get a really nice reaction of real people face to face, and that really that is like worth a million times more than anybody liking your stuff on Instagram and leaving a comment. So like that helped me a lot, like talking to people in those events. That I mean I always go to them in Europe, but of course if you're from the US or wherever, they're all over the world essentially. I think they're even making a Camp MoGraph in Europe soon. Like
yeah, they did one in Australia. I went to the last one here. That was my first time. But yeah, it's a great time. But I would say if you ever feel like you're like, oh, I like this 3D stuff, it's cool, but you don't really feel connected to the community or the space or the industry, that will literally fill your tank up. It's such a good experience.
Yeah, all like meeting those people face to face. Definitely do it. Definitely do it. Yeah, man. If you have any last word, that sounds like you're dying. Like if you have any final words for the stream, feel free to say anything you like, or plug any asset packs, any links, anything you like.
Facts. No, I think he was asking about the Discord. It's discord.gg/P4D. And then I mean on my website you can find some work. If you want to find where I post most stuff, it's Instagram. That's just Patrick_4D. And then if you wanted to check out those asset packs, it's p4d.store. And there's 3 HDRI packs that I use a lot.
Is it Patrick_4d.com? The website?
So my website with my work is Patrick4D.com. The store for the HDRI packs is p4d.store.
p4d.store. All right.
And then Instagram is just where I post all my stuff.
Yeah, Instagram.
I post updates about everything.
Sweet. Yeah, we just said 5,000 members. Like your Discord is nuts. Like that's crazy how many people you got in there.
Oh yeah, it's been. I think I started that like 2 years ago, and it's just crazy how much it's grown. I didn't even know what Discord really was at the time, but my friends were like, "Dude, you should make a Discord," and I was like, "All right." And it started like this thing that I thought maybe I'll post links to stuff every once in a while, but it turned out being just a place where people like hang out and chill, and like the voice channels and stream stuff.
Yeah, it definitely evolved into something. I mean, I was more active when I streamed a lot more, but it's definitely a great platform to like stay a little bit connected for sure.
Totally.
All right, man. 100%. I think we got the wrap up for the stream. It was a hell of a fun. Again, you were the first on the stream. Like if you don't know, guys, Patrick was the first member on my stream back when I made the collab streams, if you remember those, where we both made an everyday in like 2 hours, and Patrick was the first one on there as well. So speaking of coming back around.
Yeah, literally. And I wasn't even doing food or ZBrush at the time, or maybe I was doing ZBrush, but I did some like environment render. I remember.
Probably, yeah. I don't actually remember, but I might have it. I might still have it somewhere on my computer because I used to save all of them. I have to check through. Maybe I can find it.
Oh, I found it.
Where did you find it?
Here, I'll just put it. I'll put it here. I'll just put it in the chat, or in our chat at least.
How did you find it so fast?
Just typed in Dizzy.
Wait, let me
But
check.
that is the.
Oh, you find okay, your render. I thought you found the stream. I was like, how do you find it so fast? Oh, that was what you did.
Oh no.
That was what we did. When was that? Do we have a date for that?
I have yes. February 2nd, 2021.
February 2nd, 2021. Damn. That's 4 years ago. Over 4 years ago. Man.
Time flies by, but that's crazy that we're still
Sorry.
doing this, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So many people change careers or change this, especially us being freelance. Like we've
Yeah.
stuck with it.
For sure. I mean, I'm at a point where I'm like, also, I can't just stop now. I'm like so close to 10 years, I can't just
Oh yeah,
jeopardize the whole thing now. So,
Totally.
all right, guys, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm not used to streaming anymore, I see. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the stream. For anybody that missed the stream, I will upload this onto YouTube later, if that's fine with you, Patrick.
100%.
And yeah, I hope everybody has a great rest of the day or a great rest of the night, depending where you're at. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of Talking Dailies. Don't know which guest will be on, but I sent a few messages out and people are down for it, so you're gonna be in for a treat as well. Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me and to be the first guest on it. It means a lot to me. And
Always good to hang, man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. All right, guys. I'll see you guys around. Patrick, you wait for like 2 more minutes, and then see you guys. Peace out.